Welcome to Lost Relation Chronicles.
My name is Luke Turner. I'm 40 years old and was married for 9 years when the events that changed my life unfolded. I've always been a passionate tinkerer, someone who loves to take things apart and create something new. Over time, my hobby turned into something more, as people began showing interest in the gadgets and devices I designed. This eventually led me to secure several patents for my inventions. Not long ago, I decided to sell my patents, which brought in a significant payment. However, due to the unsettled state of my life at the time, I chose to place the money into a trust fund. I knew I needed to sort things out and regain clarity before deciding what to do with it. At 22 years old, I had just completed 3 years of service in the Army, where I worked as a medical equipment repair technician. My time in the military taught me that I had a real passion for working with machinery and technology. After returning to civilian life, I landed a day job repairing bakery equipment at a large wholesale bakery, which allowed me to continue honing my skills. In the evenings, I was attending college, working toward completing my degree in electrical engineering. My social life was a mix of reconnecting with women I had known during high school and meeting new people after my discharge. I dated on and off, navigating the world of relationships while juggling work and school. Life was busy, but I felt optimistic about building a future in both my career and personal life. It was a typical Friday night, and I found myself at a local lounge nursing a beer while people watching. The crowd buzzed with energy, and as I scanned the room, my eyes landed on a familiar face. Nora Hayes, a colleague from work. She was seated in a booth designed for four, chatting with 2 other women. The bar area was crowded, with people standing and waiting for seats to open up. Not wanting to linger awkwardly, I decided to approach Nora's booth. I greeted her with a friendly smile and asked if I could join them. Nora glanced at her companions, and after a brief exchange, they nodded in agreement. I slid into the booth and introduced myself to the group. Nora kindly took the lead, introducing her 2 friends, Emma Foster and Sophia Bennett. From the moment Emma spoke, I found her engaging and genuinely interesting. Her presence left a strong impression on me. Sophia, on the other hand, gave me a different vibe. It wasn't that I disliked Sophia. There was nothing outwardly unpleasant about her. She wasn't rude or unfriendly, and she certainly didn't say anything offensive. However, something about her demeanor just didn't sit well with me. There was an intangible disconnect, a sense that we simply didn't click. It wasn't personal, just a matter of chemistry, or the lack thereof. Emma shifted over, making room for me to slide into the booth beside her. Across the table, Nora and I dove into a lively exchange, catching up on the parts of our lives that didn't revolve around work. Meanwhile, I made an effort to engage Sophia in the conversation, but no matter how I tried, it felt like we were speaking entirely different languages. Emma, seated next to me, observed the dynamic with quiet attentiveness. As my attempts to draw Sophia out fell flat, Emma suddenly stood up, announcing that she needed to use the restroom. Without hesitation, I shifted to let her out, and in typical fashion when more than one woman heads to the restroom, a full-blown committee meeting ensued. Before I knew it, I was left alone in the booth, their handbags casually entrusted to my care. After what felt like an eternity, the women returned from their conference. Nora came back first, gathering both her bag and Sophia's. She gave us a quick update, leaning in slightly. "Sophia's not feeling well," she explained, her voice apologetic. "I'm going to take her home." With that, she ushered Sophia out, leaving Emma and me to process the sudden change in plans. That left me with Emma and a very awkward few moments. I asked Emma if she wanted to leave or for me to leave. She said no. She then thanked me for trying to talk to Sophia. It seems that Sophia caught her fiancé sleeping with an old girlfriend and was at least temporarily mad at all men. We ended talking the rest of the evening as if there was no one else in the place. After a couple of hours of beer and pizza, I talked Emma out of her phone number and promised to call her. As we were leaving, I offered her a ride and was turned down. She had her own car there. She had not ridden with Nora. I called Emma the next day and we set up a date for the next weekend. We went to a play at one of the local theater group venues. Emma had never seen a live play before and was an instant fan. After the play, we went for a late dinner. Dinner was great, and it led to more dates. After a couple of weeks, we dated exclusively until I got my degree. I found a job with a local electrical contracting company as an assistant engineer. I then asked her to marry me. She said yes. 18 months later, we were married. Sophia was the maid of honor and Nora was the bridesmaid. It was a wonderful wedding, and the reception was a lot of fun. As I said before, I had been a tinkerer since my high school days, and I had several bakery and commercial restaurant equipment patents that the industry liked. I created a company to handle all of that while I was working as a construction electrical engineer. I had set it up so that all that money was placed in a company account, so I had something that was just mine. Through the company, I managed to secretly purchase the house we were renting. Things were going great for about 2 years. I was promoted to lead engineer on a major construction project. Emma had found a new job at an office in the local neighborhood. She thought that as we were now financially stable, it was time to start a family. We tried everything we could to get her pregnant. Nothing worked. After 3 years, we finally went to a specialist and found out that probably because of an injury I had in the service, my sperm count was extremely low, and what sperm I was producing was not motile. Emma went into a funk, and our sex life was turned off like a light switch had been flipped. I put up with it for 6 months or so, and finally had enough. I sat down with Emma and said to her, "Emma, I am moving out. You obviously do not want any intimacy with me anymore. It is not my fault that I am infertile. If kids are more important to you than our life together, then maybe we should divorce." Emma started sobbing. "I don't want a divorce. I don't want you to leave. I am just so disappointed that we won't have kids that I forgot the fact that you are my life mate. Please don't go. I will try to be better." "That won't work. Your trying to be better is as much a problem as we have now. I don't want you to try. I want you to want to be better. I won't be far, and if you need me to do something for you, you can call me. I would suggest that we seek marriage counseling. If you don't want that, then you need to get counseling for yourself." I continued, "Emma, you are the sunlight and stars for me. I wanted to have a family with you. When I found out that I can't father children, I was hurt. But seeing you hurt is more than I can put up with. We will adopt children if that would make you happy. We can check fertility clinics about enhancements that might help. I just cannot go on sleeping next to a refrigerator as you have been for a while. When I try to hug you, you either back away like I am going to harm you, or you are just like hugging a post. When was the last time you just kissed, hell, even spontaneously even smiled at me? I love you with my very being. I am not leaving just because we haven't made love, and I can't be near you when the pain you are in is causing me so much pain." I finally wound down from my spiel. Emma was silent for a minute or two, then asked, "Where will you go? What will you do? When will you come back? If you're gone, how will you know I've gotten better? Please don't leave. To answer your questions, I will be right here in the city. I will keep working. I will not abandon you. I love you. I have to leave. Seeing you hurt like this is causing me so much pain that I am afraid that it will turn into anger. My mother has told me I could stay in the apartment over her garage. Your mother and dad have offered me an apartment in their building. I won't be far. Please, please get some help. I can't take this hurt you are causing me. I will be back when I can see that you love me enough to not shudder when I touch you." She just dropped her head, sobbed, and then snapped and screamed at me. "Find you a hole. Leave when things get tough. Just go. I will see a lawyer before I go to a goddamn shrink. Just go." This tirade was from the mouth of a lady that would not say piss if she was drinking it. I was shocked. I got up and walked to the bedroom and started packing my stuff. As I was packing, there were more than a few tears. I loaded up my car and my small trailer that we used when we went camping. It was not even a quarter full, but I was hoping that I would not be away long. I drove the 20 minutes that it takes to get to my mother's house and started unpacking. About 2 hours later, Mom came up and told me Emma was on the phone. I told her, "Please take a message or have her call my cell phone." After that final tirade, I don't think I want more right now. I continued, "Mom, I'm sorry you were put in the middle of this. I love that woman to pieces, and yet I can almost catch a cold from trying to just get a kiss. I know you probably don't want to know, but we have not made love or just plain sex since we found out I am sterile. I know Emma wants a family. I offered to get a divorce if it would make her happy. I am at a loss as to what to do. I am hoping that my moving out will be enough of a shock to force her to see her own hurt. If it doesn't, I may be here for a long time." I told Mom good night and went to bed. At work the next day, 2 detectives showed up at the construction site and they asked to talk to me. They said that they were following up on the burglary at my house last night. I was stunned. They explained that apparently someone tried to force a basement window last night about 3 a.m. My wife called the police, and when the sirens got close, whoever it was chased off. They asked me why someone would want to burglarize my house. I explained to them that I had several gadgets that I have invented and some that I am working on. I told them that I had moved out temporarily and that I would go home tonight and check things out. The detective then dropped the bomb. "Sir, we have had to take your wife into the hospital. It looks like she had a psychotic episode. She is in no danger, but the patrolman who responded to the call said she was hysterical. She is now at the psych ward at City Hospital. The man who she was with was told by her to leave the house. I will get right over there to see her. Don't worry about my stuff. That is not worth one hair on her head." I went on, "Thank you and thank all the officers involved. I will do what I can to fix the problems." The fact a man was with her did not register until later the next day. When I got to the hospital, I was told that I was on the excluded visitors list. I would not be able to see Emma. I asked who made up the exclusion list. I was told Emma made some and the doctors made some. They told me that my wife put me on the excluded list. I was pissed. I decided then that that was the last straw. I went back to the apartment. I sulked for about an hour and then decided to be proactive. First, I called the hospital and asked to talk to the doctor. He called me back almost immediately and told me I was also excluded from getting any medical information. More pissed, I called Emma's parents and told them what was going on. They said they were not in agreement with Emma's stance. They promised to keep me informed. I explained what had happened over the last few days. I also told them that Emma's actions have caused me to think I was right to move out. I let them get back to whatever they were doing and then called my mother. She had worked as a paralegal until she retired. I asked her for her best choice for a divorce shark. I explained that Emma was shutting me totally out of her life, so maybe my actions will force her to seek help. I said that maybe if we divorce, she can have the children she is fixated on. She reluctantly gave me the name of Ryan Blackwood. I thanked her and let her get back to what she was doing. I then called the police and asked for a copy of the police report for my insurance. I was told it would be available in a half hour, but needed to be picked up in person. No electronic transfer was legally allowed. I picked up the report, and several things seemed to be wrong. The window that was broke was only 6 inches high by 24 inches wide. No one would be able to get through that space. Then, there were only very small footprints, noted as possibly female or child, in the dirt around the window. Then the final thing was that Emma was not the only person in the house. The other person was a man, at 3 a.m., by the name of Samuel Carter. They were both dressed only in robes. The name sounded familiar, but I could not remember where I had heard it. The report stated that neither occupant had seen who had tried to break in, and that the female occupant was extremely agitated about the fact that both names would be in the police report. Finally, the man in the house comment registered. I then called Emma's work, and the phone was answered by a man named Samuel. I quickly said, "Sorry, wrong number." Now I remembered where I had heard the name. Samuel Carter was a sales associate at the office where Emma worked. I had met him once when she first started working there. I also remembered that his wife was the company owner. What was he doing in my house at 3 a.m.? The next day, I called Ryan Blackwood and was surprised to hear that Ryan was a she. I made an appointment for later that day. I then called work and told them my assistant could handle anything, but I was taking the rest of the week as personal time. My boss called almost immediately and insisted that I report to work ASAP. I faxed my resignation less than 15 minutes later. He called back and apologized and granted the time off. Then I thought about it and sent a second resignation. No more calls from work. When I got to Ryan's office, I asked for a divorce filing and a suit against the office that Emma and Samuel worked at. I also asked for a possible eviction notice, as the house was owned by my company and Emma had no stake in that company. We were renting it from the company that I had set up to market my patents and gadgets. I explained that I had a police report that showed that Emma had a man at the house at 3 a.m. I also explained that I had temporarily left because of some problems with us. The man was there the same night that I left. Ryan told me that as Emma was under a 14-day mandatory hospitalization and that my insurance was paying for her hospitalization, she would void the medical information blackout or I would not authorize payment. She thought that I should immediately move back into the house. I should also cancel all joint credit cards. I should also call the bank and set up withdrawal limits on all joint accounts and to cancel any joint ATM cards. After doing all of the bank things, I went back to the house and found Samuel trying to enter the house. When I pulled into the driveway and blocked his car, he started toward me. I grabbed my cell and called the police non-emergency and asked to talk to an officer. Samuel came up to the car and motioned me to roll the window down. When I shook my head no, grabbed my wallet and showed him my ID, he took off running down the road. I just laughed and asked the officer if they any information on the damage done to my house from the break-in. They said the only damage was the window caused by a drunken neighbor who wandered into the driveway, and when her key would not fit the door, she kicked the window, and when it broke, she ran off. She called the station the next day and told the desk she would pay the damages. I went into the house and into what was our bedroom and found that the dresser drawers that I had emptied had men's clothes in them. I went through all of the closets and the dresser and grabbed all the men's clothes that did not belong and took those out to the garage where we had a totally illegal incinerator. I left the garage door open hoping Samuel would come back. He did as I was putting the last load in the incinerator. I smiled as he was walking up to the door. I called out to him and asked what I could do for him. He saw what I was doing and just shook his head and came in and said I probably deserved what you were doing. I thought Emma was divorced. She has been saying that you left her for another woman 6 months ago. So you felt you could move in? I rent this house and Emma has not paid a dime toward the rent. Emma has no claim on it. I moved out 3 days ago because of a freeze from my wife. I told her it was only temporary. I continued. You and your wife's company will be hearing from my attorney soon. He paled and I laughed. Then asked, would you like me to move my car so you can leave? Oh, I continued. When you go see Emma, you can tell her that when she gets out, she needs to go to her parents' house because I will be taking all of her stuff there. Also, tell her I now understand the freeze. One last thing, I screamed. How long have you been screwing my wife? He did not answer, just got in his car and I let him out. Then I went back to the house and called a locksmith. I finished the afternoon by making copies of the police report. I made one copy for my insurance company if needed. I also made one copy for Emma's parents if they started to blame me for the problems. Then I put one copy in our safe in the basement. I was planning on putting the original in my personal safe deposit box in the bank. That box also contained all of the patent papers and a bank book where I put the money my patent licensing agreements made me. The job money and about 10% of the patent money were in our joint accounts, and that is all of the money Emma knows about. It is not much, but it is enough that if I have to split it, Emma will come out all right. The hidden money was because I wanted something that was mine only. The house Emma found out about, so she would not be able to go for it in a divorce. It would not be a deal breaker. I spent the next morning moving all of Emma's clothes, makeup, toiletries, and any pictures that did not have me in, into boxes that we had broken down and stored when Emma first moved in. The locksmith showed up in the early afternoon and changed the locks. I took all of the boxes to Emma's parents' apartment building and gave them a copy of the police report. They were not happy, but they took the stuff. I left. Ryan got back to me and said the non-payment threat was enough to get all of the medical information. It turns out Emma was about 6 weeks pregnant and had panicked when she realized the police were going to be finding out about Mr. Carter being at the house at that time. She actually screamed at the officers that arrived to investigate the break-in. Then she started screaming and crying. The officers restrained her and had her committed for a 14-day psychiatric evaluation. She lost the baby, and that really put her over the edge. The doctors wanted to commit her for 90 days as she was almost suicidal. They also noted that her hormones were elevated as if she was taking fertility drugs, but they could not find a prescription from any of the doctors that she identified as her being in their care. The note of the pregnancy was the final straw. I told Ryan that I wanted Emma served after she is released for the hospital. I explained to Ryan that I am virtually sterile and that the sperm that I do have are damaged. I also told her to immediately file suit against the company because they have a clear non-frat policy. I told her to make it painful, but not fatal. Part of the settlement was to be that they both be terminated with prejudice and receive no recommendation or severance package. The suit against the company was filed immediately, and Mrs. Carter informed Ryan through her lawyer that they would fight it. Ryan told the other attorney that we had proof of unprofessional conduct by both of them. She did not bring up the pregnancy, but did mention the police report of Samuel being in the house at 3 a.m. Their attorney told Ryan he would get back to them as his client never mentioned that fact. Ryan said she may not have known. At the mention of her, the lawyer told Ryan he would recommend a settlement. When the lawyers got back together, the settlement was reached. I got a decent amount of money and Samuel and Emma were both fired. Samuel's wife filed for divorce based on the police report. Samuel had told her he was visiting a customer site and had been there that night to get an early start. I got all of that from one of the office people that Emma worked with. Emma walked out of the hospital before the commitment papers were filed. She was served on the sidewalk outside the hospital. She disappeared, and I didn't hear from her for over a year. She did sign and return the divorce papers, but she asked for nothing from the marriage, not even the split that she was entitled to. Almost 15 months after the divorce was final, I received an apology letter from Emma. It was postmarked from a small town in Montana. She did not give any details of her life after the divorce. The letter was just an apology for the pain she caused me. Samuel had a run-in with a baseball bat the day after I got the apology from Emma. It seems that he had seduced the wife of a made man while he was in New York. I almost felt his pain. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.